Which is the better choice in tennis, cross court or down the line? Let's take a deep dive into the pros and cons of each so that you can intelligently pick the right one in the right situation and win more matches. Hey, my name is Ian, and over the last 16 years, I've helped more than 1 million tennis players improve with my videos, podcasts, and top-rated book on Amazon. Let's jump right in. The first big benefit of cross court is it's safer compared to going down the line for 3 reasons. When you hit across this blue line, we go over a lower part of the net because the net gets held down in the center and it's higher towards the outside. So you have a little bit of extra space over the top of the net to hit. You also have extra space inside of the courts. This direction, cross court, gives you 4.5 more feet of room inside the court to hit compared to hitting down the line. And thirdly, there's more margin for error with timing mistakes. When you aim for this cross-court target, the blue X, and you're a little bit late with your timing, the ball ends up staying in play and going towards the center of the court. But on the other hand, when you go down the line and your timing's a little bit late, which is usually how tennis players miss time, then you end up missing wide. The second big benefit to hitting cross-court is it's just easier compared to going down the line. Not only do you have bigger targets because of the height of the net and the length of the court, but when we continue these lines, and let's say you hit this ball cross court, your opponent may potentially have to move all the way off the court, depending on the angle you hit and how far away they are from the court. They might have to move way out to the side to retrieve one of your shots because you hit cross court. When you go down the line, the furthest your opponent is ever going to have to run is to the sideline. It's not possible to pull your opponent off the court with a down the line shot. A great way to experience this for yourself is doing what I like to call a figure 8 drill. Next time you go out to practice with a partner, do 5 or 10 minutes of rallying where one of you hits every ball cross court, no matter what you get, and the other person hits every ball down the line, no matter what they get. And you'll realize in a very short period of time that the person who has the down the line shots is working much, much harder because the person hitting cross court is consistently pulling them off the sidelines away from the center of the court, and the person hitting down the line is hitting straight shots that their partner doesn't have to run off the court to get. So when you compound that over 5 or 10 minutes of rallying back and forth, it starts to become very obvious that the more you hit down the line and the more your opponent or partner hits cross court, the more work you have to do. This is why when you watch tennis on TV and you see players like Sinner and Djokovic playing against each other, a lot of times you'll see them more or less hit the ball back to each other in a cross-court pattern. It's because they both understand that there's inherent benefits to hitting cross-court, and they're trying to be patient and feel each other out. It's not that they can't go down the line. Of course, they have the ability to, but they're waiting for an opportunity that it really makes sense and it's not going to bite them in the butt. Here's a great example of both of them managing that risk versus reward with a bunch of cross-court shots on one side of the court, then a change of direction to the other side of the court, and again going back multiple times, then back to the ad side again, hitting cross-court multiple times until Sinner feels like he has the opportunity to go for a more aggressive shot. Then he grabs control and keeps control until the point is over. But it started with kind of a little bit of battle of wills back and forth, cross-court, 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 until one of them felt like they actually had the right shot to go for the more aggressive ball. If this video has already been helpful, please do me a favor and click the like button. It helps more passionate tennis players see it. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. On the flip side, here's some downsides to overusing the cross-court shot. Number one, you can become really predictable. Now, if your forehand is better than your opponent's forehand, the being predictable and hitting everything cross-court can actually work out really, really well. But if your opponent is your level or above your level, then becoming predictable becomes a very bad thing. And hitting every ball cross-court can just play right into their comfort zone and keep them in control of the match. For some people, it can be really boring, knowing that they're supposed to hit cross-court, and so, I guess I'm going to hit cross-court. They know I'm hitting cross-court. And some players, their personality and their game style just doesn't mesh very well, and I completely get that. Number 3, you can kind of get stuck if that situation we just talked about is reversed and your opponent's forehand is much better than your forehand. Then hitting a bunch of cross-court shots on the deuce side might get you into a bad pattern that benefits your opponent over and over. So in those kinds of situations, going to the well and hitting a bunch of shots cross court can be exactly the wrong thing to do. And finally, because of the geometry of the court, approaching the net with a cross-court shot can be problematic. We don't have time to get into that today, but going down the line on an approach shot, if you like coming to the net a lot, is super beneficial. Now let's talk about the benefits of going down the line. Number one, the ball arrives at its target faster, sooner. It takes less time for the ball to travel to the yellow X as it does to the blue X. So when your opponent is the same distance away from both corners and you go down the line, all other things being equal, if you hit both shots at the same height and the same speed, the ball will get to the yellow X faster. And so it's easier to get them in a stressful defensive situation when you do go down the line. Going down the line is also less predictable, and it's easier to get your opponent off balance because if they're smart, they know that you in general should be trying to hit a lot of shots cross court, and so that can really bite them in the butt. Let me show you an example of that. Watch Sinner on the low side here as he hits cross court. Novak hits back cross court, and then Sinner goes down the line. And at first glance, it kind of looks like, wow, it was just a good down the line shot. But when we slow things down and we look at the position that Sinner is in here, Novak hits a good ball here cross court. And Novak is just assuming that as Sinner is back behind the baseline, getting ready for a forehand, that's not the hardest shot in the world, but he's also not stepping inside the baseline to attack. And so as Sinner makes this swing, watch this. I'm just going to inch forward in time a little bit and watch how Novak is correctly shifting and positioning himself a little bit more to the left. I don't have time to get into the details and the specifics in this particular video, but when the ball is off to the right on the baseline, you should be positioned a little bit to the left. Novak is seeing Sinner getting pulled out to the right, and he is correctly positioning himself a little bit in this direction. And Sinner, on a neutral, kind of even ball, decides to go down the line on this shot. And so what happens is he catches Novak with his momentum and his energy going in one direction while he hits in the other. And so that unpredictable nature of the down the line shot, in this case, gave Sinner the upper hand in the point. Watch how Novak comes down from that split step, has to catch his momentum, and then reverse it back in the other direction. And when you combine that with the fact that Sinner's down the line shot gets to that target a little bit faster, it puts Novak in a very defensive position, and it flips the point completely in Sinner's favor, and he's able to put the ball away because of that risk reward that he received by going down the line. Mastering patterns and tactical plays is critical to your success as a tennis player, which is why I put together the training at tennissecret.com, where you're going to learn 3 secrets to making half the errors in your very next match. Like we're talking about today, most points end with a mistake, and with some simple tweaks to your positioning and your targets, you can dramatically reduce yours and win a lot more matches. The training's totally free, so go check it out at tennissecret.com. 2 other big benefits of going down the line are when you approach the net, it helps you be in better position when you go down the line before arriving up at the net to hit volleys. Don't have time to dive into that today, but it's a huge factor if you're going to come up to the net a lot. And secondly, it's just fun and exciting to go down the line. There's a little bit of kind of a naughty factor to it where you know that down the line is a little bit riskier. And if your personality is a little bit more risk taker, you're more of an offensive player, there's something really exciting and really satisfying about going down the line and having it work out, and that can be a lot of fun. Hitting down the line is more fun, but there are considerations that you need to keep in mind. There are detractions, and the first one is it's just more difficult statistically because the net is higher, because the court is shorter, because if you're a little bit late, you end up missing instead of just hitting to the middle of the court. It's easier to make a mistake going down the line, which is a big problem because most tennis points end with one person or the other making a mistake. Even the players we see on TV, most of those points are ending with an error and not with somebody just hitting an amazing winner. Not only can going down the line too often result in making too many mistakes and just giving the match to your opponent, but it's also just harder work. Watch the point from Sinner here and watch how much work he's having to do down at the bottom and how little running Novak is having to do on his side. And it's because of the decisions that Sinner has made. On the return of serve, he's trying to lean in and attack and be offensive on a second serve by going down the line. And I want you to notice how far Novak has to run. He's beginning from this position right here. And as Sinner hits down the line, he lands right there. And so Novak is having to move 2 steps in order to get this ball. And then because Sinner hits down the line and it opens up a cross-court shot from Novak, when Novak hits at an angle, Sinner has to move all the way over to here. So Sinner just had to travel this distance to hit his shot, while Novak only had to travel this distance to hit this shot. And that discrepancy gives a huge advantage to Novak, opens up the court. He's got his opponent on the run, and now on the very next ball, Novak's able to hit down the line himself because he has the upper hand, and he's able to put the point away in his favor because Sinner put himself on the run with his decision to go down the line right off the bat in the point, and he didn't do enough to hurt his opponent, so it actually ended up hurting himself. The bottom line is both cross-court and down-the-line shots are necessary if you want to play the best possible tennis. Cross-court shots are great for consistency, for trying to outlast your opponent, for safety and defense, and also to try to pull your opponent off the court. Whereas down-the-line shots are critical for attacking, taking time away from your opponent, making them uncomfortable, and cashing in when you have an opportunity to step in and take charge of a point, or coming into the net. So you need to practice both. If you're not sure how to hit each of those targets, make sure to check out the lesson that's on the screen right now. I'll show you how to have pinpoint accuracy and control over all of your ground strokes and place it wherever you want the ball to go. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again next time.